I got engaged in competitions like this month with Exness team. I will talk about during the presentation. So just wanted to have this feeling, accomplishment, and thrill of the competition. but after this one, I probably quit forever. Finally.
Good stuff, good stuff. I'm going to test sharing my screen, and then maybe we can start in 1 minute. So do you see the slides now?
Yep.
Still seeing them?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So maybe we can start. What do you think, Chris?
Let's do it. Yes.
Super. So I'm just going to do a quick intro of PyData Cyprus, and then I'm going to hand over to Pavel. For those of you that are new here, PyData is a forum, an international community where it's a place to share ideas and you can learn things around open source data. It's a global community, so there are meetups in a couple of cities. I think more than 200. All the red dots in the background. So it's quite a large community. If you don't know, it's a community that is being supported and organized by a non-profit called NumFOCUS. NumFOCUS is actually the organization behind a lot of the tools we use in data science, such as those tools. So in case you don't know, it is the unknown hero in a way. And our local meetup here in Cyprus is one of the biggest meetups, I think, in the island. We have around 800 members, which is quite nice. We used to do it in Limassol back before COVID, but now it's all virtual, and we're trying to get back into doing it in person. So this is probably happening as soon as we have a space and we're enough people, but just worth saying. And yeah, if you want to have a chat about the meetup, give a talk, or are interested in what's happening here in Cyprus, send us a message. Cool. I'm just going to stop sharing, and hopefully we can have Pavel start. Can you share your screen, Pavel? Is everything set up okay?
Just a sec. Yeah, it doesn't want to share on Mac. I haven't tested it. Oops. Let me grab another laptop.
This case where you testing staging and then you go to production and then you have issues.
Yeah. I did check the settings. It seems that it's fine from our end.
Just a couple of minutes. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Anyone else in the audience that is takes part in competitions like Kaggle or anywhere else? Feel free to drop a message or raise a hand.
I definitely know a couple of guys. One was my teammate. several years ago.
I see.
I can say that I have been very unsuccessful in competitions. Maybe, after this talk, I'll know everything that is needed. We've tried a couple of times with some people in the company, and it has ended uneventfully.
Recording.
Can you hear me? Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's get started. Oops. Okay, so my name is Pavel Pleskov. I'm Senior Quant at Exness, and today we will talk about machine learning competitions. So why the hell on earth I would talk about ML competitions? So I spent more than 10 years analyzing the data in various roles. I worked as a financial consultant. I did some high frequency trading. I competed in ML events professionally for several years. Also worked for several Silicon Valley startups, and right now I'm working at Exness. So I do have some experience in this area. So let's first define what is ML competition and what is not an ML competition. So you probably all know hackathons from the like programming stuff when people maybe gather for a couple of days. They work in teams. Sometimes they use sleeping bags, and in the end they present their solution. They solve some problems. So this is not an ML competition. This is a hackathon. And we will talk today about online competitions. So what's online competition? There are platforms where competitions are organized. The duration is usually several months. It is usually more like individual work. So ML engineer or data scientists, they build models and make predictions. Then they upload these predictions to a leaderboard, and they can see the placement in this leaderboard. And by the end of the competition, the best prediction wins. The team or individual data scientist gets the reward. Sometimes the solution is presented to the organizers, but it's not always the case. So it is kind of different from a hackathon, mostly because of the duration. So it's actually a long journey. So it lasts like a small project in a company. So maybe up to 3 months, and sometimes even more. So what's the most popular platform for hosting ML competitions? Of course, this is Kaggle. I'm sure most of you probably heard this name before. So as I mentioned, this is the largest platform. There are several million registered users. It is out there for more than 10 years already. 5 years ago, it was acquired by Google. They introduced a lot of nice features there. And this platform not only hosts competitions, they collect the data, and it's basically a free service for hosting the data. They also provide free compute, so you can solve competition with this platform. You don't even need to use your own computational resources, so you can store data, you can compute. So all the features for work is there. And I spent around 3 years on this platform, became number 2 in the world and number 1 in Russia. Like in my peak popularity, I was invited to give talks in different locations all over the world. But 2 years ago, already 3 years ago, I was banned completely from this platform, and we will talk about this later. I want to mention that there are many platforms out there. Kaggle being the most popular, but there are some local platforms in India, in Russia, in Australia. They do have less competitions for sure, less prize money. But sometimes, for example, Topcoder is a platform which was introduced by Google. It was for competitive programming in the first place. Then they switched a little bit to ML. Basically, now they do have two platforms, Kaggle and Topcoder, and like some of let's say professional ML competitors, they may prefer one or another platform. And I try to solve competitions on all the listed platforms. So I basically did it full time. Let's talk about what the competition is about. What tasks do data scientists solve? So for several years, computer vision tasks like building image models were very popular because it was like there was a rise in popularity in computer vision models. You probably heard maybe about ResNet and the similar models, about GPUs and so on. And there are different tasks in computer vision like classification, segmentation, generation, and so on. You might have heard the recent rise in popularity of diffusion models. It's about generating images. You probably all saw these fancy avatars in different styles, similar to what Prisma startup did like 5 years ago. Now it's again gaining popularity. So these are the tasks in computer vision which can be solved during these competitions. Also, NLP, it's not that popular. It's working with texts, but it is gaining popularity again right now because of large language models. And like in NLP, probably the most popular task was the classification task. And of course, there are some standard things like working with tabular data or time series data, things you usually you do at work, so analyzing numbers in the table. And there are like a minority of other tasks we will talk about. So let me give you some examples of the competitions my team was successful at. So first one is a classification task in computer vision. The task was to identify which phone camera was used to take a picture. So there was given a huge data set of images. There were labels provided for each image, which phone was used. And the task was to identify on unknown test set, on an unknown data set of images, which phone was used. And it is like from a stranger point of view, it seems like a really complicated task because if you're performing a double-blind test, you're given two images, you will never tell with your naked eye which phone was used, which model of iPhone was used, and so on. But computer vision models can easily identify some like slight distortion in the lens and other features. So it was quite fun, and one of the peculiarities of this competition was that external data was allowed. So most of the top teams were busy gathering new data on sites like Google Images, Yandex Images, and so on, and enriching their training data set. And basically, the team who got the most data won, and it was our team. The other really funny competition, you might have heard about this project made by Google, which is called Doodle, where you're given a task of drawing a doodle on a particular of a particular kind, and then Google trying to say if you did a good job or not. So it's kind of a game, and they were solving again a classification problem. So we had a bunch of doodles at hands. There were labels associated with different classes, And the task was to classify which doodle it is. Is it a crocodile or a chair or something else? So it was kind of fun, and my team won this one as well. The other, so if you're going away from classification tasks, one of the popular tasks is segmentation. So it was actually a company which sells the cars, and they have they need to post ads. They take a photo of a car using different angles, and they want to remove background. That was the task. So they proceeded with Kaggle to solve this problem, and it was also much fun. It was very fierce competition. So as you may imagine, when you're removing background, your final score can depend on maybe a tiny fraction of the pixels on the edge of this background or the car, and that's what top teams were trying to solve, how to cope with some edge cases and maybe improve the results like just tiny bit. One of the rare competitions on Kaggle was generating images. It was about dogs. So it is actually very hard to design such competition, because you have to assess the solution automatically. I mean, if we look with our naked eyes at the images, it is like in many cases, it is kind of clear if it's a dog or not. But given this task to a computer, it's a completely separate challenge. So somehow organizers solved it, and I mean, it was quite fun. And as I said, it was a very rare competition. I haven't heard about like these tasks anymore. Like in terms of NLP or text analyzing, there was one where you have to normalize the text. Text normalization is basically translating all the special symbols and numbers to words as depicted on the slide. They were performed in different languages, in English and Russian. And it was one of a kind competition as well. And the funny thing that this time there were like top models were not ML models, but very simple heuristics, some dictionaries, some rule-based methods. And I think organizers were kind of surprised, maybe impressed that some of the participants, including myself, didn't use ML at all. Another text-related competition was Quora in sincere questions classification. I think it is clear from the name of the competition what was the task, and it was again a classification task. And for Quora, it is kind of important because like there are a lot of people who want to post some questions on Quora, but for sure that sometimes it is trolling, sometimes it is irrelevant, and so on. And they wanted to build a system of filtering, like let's say bad questions, and that's what the scientists and the engineers tried to solve. So there are a lot of tabular competitions, like working with table data. One of the fun ones was predicting outcomes of basketball championship in the United States. It was made separately. It was done separately for Women's Cup and Men's Cup, and surprisingly, some of the models were really robust and precise. So, and the great part of this competition was that the test, so the verification of the model was live. So the competition started like several months prior to the actual games, and it ended after all the games were played. So we knew the actual scores, and the best model won. So it was fun as well. And in the other category was traveling salesman problem in 2018, which is I think very famous among programmers and people working in funk and so on. And again, there was in this kind of competitions, you are not expected to use ML models, but you may use any kind of optimization algorithms. And like for ML crowd, it was kind of fun because you have to solve linear algebra problems. You use some packages you never heard of, maybe write some code in C++. You probably know that all the data scientists use Python, like almost all. So it was also fun. So I talked about what tasks data scientists usually solve. Let's maybe make a step back and discuss why companies even bother to organize competitions. Because for the company, it is not that cheap. So if you want to introduce your task or your competition to Kaggle, there is a upfront fee, fixed fee, maybe around 100 grand. It probably more right now because this is the most popular platform out there, and thousands of data scientists around the world will solve your problem. You also have to spend some money on the prize pool, which like on average is around 50 grand. So it's not that cheap to organize the competition. So why companies do that? And the majority of the companies do it for PR. So like 20 years ago, every company started to introduce like IT in their processes. Maybe 10 years ago, people were like excited about big data. Everybody said we have big data. And now people like companies are doing so-called ML transformations. So they said we introduced IT infrastructure, we collected the data, and now every company is ML company, even though some of the products are not ML related. Maybe companies like insurance, telecom, oil and gas, but they all say that we do employ best practices of analyzing data with ML. And sometimes they just want to deliver this idea that they use these methods to the world, to the market, to the future employees. And that's why they organize competitions. So basically saying, we are on the same boat as everybody else. We are on the edge. We do use ML. It improves our business. So we're cool. In like 10% of cases, it is basically a continuation of a PR project. Companies are trying to hire data scientists with these competitions. So if a top team wins, they may offer a position with this company. We will talk about this a bit in a Zillow case, but it is like direct offers usually a rare occasion. So probably PR strategy is again the main idea, and if some data scientists or ML engineers are interested in this company, they will apply directly, and there is no need to offer them positions. And surprisingly, only very rarely companies are actually trying to solve the problem at hand. And why is that? So first of all, during the competition, you don't always, let's say, you never build the production-ready code. So it's usually messy code. You like do your research in Jupyter Notebook. You don't do any CI/CD. You don't do tests. So it's basically a very, very vague research. You may build a model, but it could be a stacking of like hundreds of models. So it's completely not production ready. So some of the companies are trying to maybe pick up ideas from your solution, but like not more than that. So, I mean, it is kind of a counterintuitive that companies are not trying to solve the problem, but that's the case. And based on my experience, my wife also organized competitions for several years, and that's what we saw from the companies, the motivation. So let's talk about the other side of the coin. So the competitors, what motivates them? And first and foremost is skill development. So when you solve a competition, you are introduced to novel methods. You are presented with interesting tasks. You can learn from more experienced guys, and this really boosts your skills. And it is really hard to find another profession where you can like have fun, be involved in some competitive gamified activity, and actually growing professionally. So why this even like happens in the first place? So sometimes like your tasks at work could be really boring. Like data scientist profession is a sexy one. They do earn a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your life in a company will be bright and fun. Like company needs could be narrowed down to some simple models like churn or customer lifetime value prediction, which everybody does. And it's not that exciting as like competitions. Sometimes you may only work with tabular data at your like daily activity at your job, but there are so many new papers and ideas in different areas like computer vision or NLP, and you want to tackle this model, you want to try things out, but you just don't have like the business need at your job. So that's another reason why people stick to competitions. And last but not least, sometimes you just don't have like people above you to learn from. So a competition is a nice venue where you can observe what other like the most experienced guys are doing and pick up ideas from them. And these solutions are usually on the edge of like machine learning. So these are, I think, three main reasons why people join, but it's not not the only reasons. So let's talk a little bit about skill development. And I based it on my personal experience. So when I started to do ML, for sure, I watched all the Coursera courses. Some of you may recognize this guy, this Andrew Ng, the creator of the most popular online course on ML. But the problem with the course is that it is mostly videos and theoretical knowledge. And when it comes down to some practical exercises like homeworks, it's usually designed like for an like average person to solve. Sometimes it is boring. Sometimes you may find answers on GitHub. So it's not the best way to boost your practical skills. And that's when competitions come in handy. So you have this gamification part where there is a leaderboard, and if you don't improve, like from a practical point of view, you go down, and you want to be in the top. And there's also a thrill of maybe winning or losing. And I mean, there are so like much emotions and involvement. So it cannot be compared to just doing the homework. And in terms of soft skills, like I mentioned in the beginning that machine learning competitions usually started with individual work, but closer to the end of the competition, top guys usually unite in one team. And that's when you can fully appreciate the teamwork, working from different time zones, maybe with people from different backgrounds, different nationalities. You may become a leader of your team and introduce ideas. You may be a mentor to others, or other team members may mentor you if you are not that experienced. So this is all what I discussed, maybe lacking on your day-to-day job, but in a competition, given that it is very intense experience, it can again boost your teamwork and soft skills enormously. So this was all about skills and let's say like the bright side. There is another side of the competition. Of course, it's vanity, fame, money, and so on. And this guy is a very famous Kaggle Grandmaster with the nickname Jiba. He's from Brazil. He's been around for, I don't know, maybe 10 years already. He worked as an engineer for an oil company. And then he started to, like as many of us did, started to learn ML, started to compete. He got excited, got engaged, started to win. And he was #1 on the global leaderboard for 2 years. He earned a lot of money prizes, and eventually he got an offer from Airbnb and moved to United States with a O1 talent visa. And this is a typical profile of a very famous competitive ML engineer. So there are like maybe a couple of dozens of people of this scale. I mean, it is hard to say for sure what motivates them, but fame could be one of the reasons. And let's talk about the money. So as I mentioned before, like the average prize pool is usually 50 grand. So the top team is given around 10 or 15 grand, and others get small amounts. But there were some outliers with some outstanding numbers. So the first here with 1.5 million was passenger screening performed by some security agency in the United States. So it was about classifying images if a person holds a gun or something dangerous. Unfortunately, it was only organized for United States citizens. So like the rest of the world did not participate. And I think the top guy, he trained maybe 100 models, very, very similar. Then he averaged them all together. So it was very brute force and kind of a simple solution, but I mean, he solved it, and like given the lack of competition, and he got the money. Another case, which we will cover just in a sec more, Zillow home value prediction. So Zillow is a company which like may sell or evaluate or buy houses, and the core business the core business is predicting price of a house given the images, the location, all the meta information available. And this competition was like a huge deal. It lasted, I think, for a year. It was two stages competition. There were 3,000 teams involved. And then like top 100 or 200 went to the second stage. They were validated on some, I think, maybe hold out real data. And I think top teams were actually offered a position at the company and went working with them. But as I said, there were some consequences to it. The last one, the Data Science Bowl, is like a traditional Kaggle competition. It's usually about some maybe more academia research questions. At the time, it was about segmenting cell images from the microscope. And I mean, when you see numbers like that, it always means that there's going to be a huge competition. And like it happened in this case as well. So for now, we discussed only the bright side. Let's discuss the dark side of the competitions. There is always but. So first of all, it is really hard to design a cool competition because you need to have like some a data set which nobody worked before. You might want to have an interesting task, probably business related or academia related, and there are very many like ideas how you can organize a competition, but the tasks are just like too average, like a lot of businesses solve, as I mentioned, similar tasks of churn prediction, like CLTV models, some things which have been done like hundreds of times, and nobody wants to solve like this task on a competition. And so designing a competition, it's a very unique process. Another thing, so there are usually like in Kaggle example, there is a collaboration between organizers from the company which provides the data and the task, and from the Kaggle team. And it is usually just like maybe up to 5 guys, some data scientists, maybe leads, and they have limited resources of how thorough they can be in checking the data, checking the metric, finding all the loopholes and so on. And they are competing against thousands and thousands of top ML engineers, very motivated out in the wild. And these engineers, they will find each and every pitfall which organizers team missed. And sometimes it leads to like conflicts and scandals, and it happens quite often, actually, like maybe in every second or third competition. And the last but not the least, as I also mentioned before, competition like output models and code, they're very far from production, and the task you're solving is actually very limited in the scope comparing to your day-to-day activity. So you're basically given a metric, you're given the data, and this data is already cleaned for you. And as you may know, like 80% of the time of data scientists isn't cleaning the data. So all of this work is done for you, for a competitor, and you only work on a fun part. You train the model, you pick up the architecture, you fine-tune parameters, and like you squeeze all the juice out of the data, maybe finding some insights and so on. But this is very far from real world, and sometimes like when competitive data scientists are hired by the companies, they're a bit like frustrated by the actual work they have to do, because it is not that fun as in competitions. So let's talk a bit about this Zillow case. So as I said, there was a huge prize pool, and so it was a core part of the business, evaluating these house prices. But eventually it narrowed down to some ML ops, or some, I would say, standard practices of dealing with models. Model degraded, and the company lost a lot of money, and they had to fire almost the entire data science team. Even though the competition lasted for a year, I put here the top of a leaderboard, and you can see that top teams were fighting for the fifth digit of Mantissa, and I mean they were actually building the best models which could possibly be built, but like in the company, they probably didn't have a great ML like culture, which led to a disaster. And this is, I mean, the actual real case. So a lot of money was lost, and not because like the models or approaches were bad, but because of other reasons, like production related. One of the things which comes like with all the competitions is called data leakage. So it's a feature which you use in the model, but it is absolutely not useful in production. So to give you some examples, could be some rounding issues, maybe with test data and trained data, could be file change timestamp. If you solve a classification problem, I saw several competitions where people just copy files from different folders, and you can easily separate like positive and negative labels based on this information, which like may give you a first place in the competition, but totally useless in the real world. Sometimes you can find answers online, and we will talk about this case in a sec. So, and data leakages happen like quite often, maybe in every second or third competition, because as I mentioned before, it is very similar to the work I do at Exness. We are fighting fraud, and when you have a small team of very talented, very skillful engineers, but you're competing with the thousands of highly motivated people, and you don't know what they're doing, it is very hard to win. And this is exactly why data leakages happen, because team organizers, they have limited resources, and all the data scientists in the world who are competing, they have far more resources. So let's talk about my favorite topic, my ban on Kaggle. So get your time in reading these highlights from the media. So what actually happened? We had a team of 3 people, and there was a competition where you had to predict if a cat or dog will be adopted, will go to the shelter, and there was like the host of the competition had a website where he got the data from, and the test data as well. So the natural idea was to look up this test data from this website, which is exactly what I did. Of course, it was a violation of the rules. It was basically cheating. So we won this competition, and a year after, when they were trying to implement this model, it was all revealed. And so, as I said, I was banned. So the price for our team was 10 grand, and there were 3 team members, so each of us got 3,000. We returned the money. I made an apology, public apology. I got all the shitstorm, but I really liked how these headlines inflated the prize pool, because 25,000 was the entire prize pool, and I mean it was very like valuable lesson for me. It was very hard emotionally, because I spent 2.5 years getting to the top. At that time, I was number 2 in the ranking, and after that, I got banned completely from the platform, from the community, and so on. So that was the case. And a month ago, so it was 3 years ago, and a month ago, I did a comeback. So I decided that I'm fully recovered from this event. I want to do things right, and we entered this trend detection challenge, which was a part of NIPS ML conference, which is one of the most famous and popular conferences in the world. And if you win this competition, you got the money, you write a paper, submit it to this conference, you give a workshop. So we were highly motivated to win it. We wanted to do it right, and we actually did it. So what was the competition about? It was a classification task where you have to find poisoned neural nets, and the poisoned neural net is the one that mislabel in this case, images, if you apply some noise or a patch to an image. This is a highly important security question. For example, you may have heard things in driverless cars when people stick a small patch to the stop sign and the car doesn't stop in front of the sign. So it is important in the real world. We did have some synthetic data. This competition was organized by PhDs and professors from Berkeley and other top US universities. They had some methods which they developed for years. They had some papers, and they wanted to see new approaches. And we got the first place. There were several tracks on this competition, but the main one was the detection, just the classification problem to separate poisoned and non-poisoned neural nets. There was a really hard competition because we had 3 completely separate ideas which all contributed to our first place, and the final score was almost perfect. So we almost perfectly separated these neural nets, and baseline, which was provided by the organizers, separated only like in 70% of cases. This time when I communicated with organizers a lot. We found some pitfalls, and we shared our solution because at the first stage it felt like it was too simple of a solution, and organizers were very kind and invited me as an author of the paper to another conference, and it was during the competition. So we actually submitted the paper to another famous ML competition, but there was a lot of fun, let's say quoted fun, from the organizers' side, because like these guys are really smart, but they're from academia, and they don't have a lot of experience in organizing competitions. So people from business usually do it better. So always when you're competing, make sure that it is not organized by academia. So there was for sure a data leak, and it was the exact data leak I described on one of the previous slides. It was a timestamp of the file change, and it was discovered by several participants, but it did not influence the results. But anyway, it happened. So at some point when the competition ended, organizers decided to extend it because one of the team didn't make it on time, and it was outrageous. I never saw competition like rule like that. But since I had a lot of communications with the organizers, they reverted it because of push from my side. There was also a problem with the test data. It was drawn from the other distribution, which organizers didn't fully admit. It ruined part of our solution, but luckily not the entire solution. And last but not the least, the pool prize was provided by FTX Exchange, and you might have heard that FTX Crypto Exchange got bankrupt like recently, but luckily organizers find it another source of funding. So I do have a lot of materials on this competition. I will present it in the beginning of December at Exness venue. If you want to hear more details, come and join. It will be probably on the 7th of December, but it will like the exact details will be posted later. If you're in Limassol and want to come offline, you're very much welcome. And I will tell more about this fascinating like comeback. So that's basically it. Thanks for listening. If you want to contact me, these are the details, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Hello. Hi, Pavel.
Yep, I'm here.
I've lost connection for a bit. I guess I see some questions in the chat.
Yeah, if it's possible to copy a presentation, yeah, I think I can give you the copy. No problems here. What was the key idea of the solution in recent competition? So there were three ideas. I will discuss the simplest one which came to our mind. So organizers provided us with a deep learning pipeline how to solve this competition. You basically upload weights of poisoned and non-poisoned nets, and then you train this huge network. You do backprop as usual, but it was computationally intensive, and I wanted to do something really simple. So what we did was we trained a simple ML model, like a regression model, based on statistics from neural net weights. So the neural nets were like the architectures were like fixed. There were 4 architectures, and you have all the layers. You have all the weights. You can calculate all the stats like mean, standard deviation, and so on. And it turned out that this very simple method was particularly useful for one architecture, one data set, and like organizers were completely surprised by this idea, and this is exactly what we submitted to the paper to ICLR. But it was just one of the parts of our solution. And if you want to learn more, please come to Limassol. But I think we will share eventually our solution on the internet, and there's going to be a paper as well.
Are there any more questions?
Don't be shy, feel free.
Don't be shy, it's your chance now. I actually, Pavel, you mentioned about it's really hard to design these competitions properly. I've never thought about that actually. Can you maybe elaborate a bit? I mean, it's in my mind it was mostly getting the data and arranging everything in Kaggle, but I guess there are of course more to it. So if you have any insights, please share.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, you do have a lot of public data sets which everybody saw, so it's not very much of interest to competitors. You may have some data, but it could be proprietary. Your company will not allow to share it with others, so maybe it should be anonymized or things like that. But even if, okay, you do have a data set, and you do have a task in mind, it could be business related, you do have a metric, but most of the tasks can be solved very easily, maybe with AutoML, maybe with very simple XGBoost model or a regression model, and it will not be fun for competitors to look at this data for 3 months. So that's the problem. So the problem is to find the data with a lot of insights in it, and with a task related to it, which maybe was not solved before. But if you want to do something innovative, there is a high chance that you will screw up. So you will screw up the metric, you will optimize maybe something not related to the business problem. It could be too simple of a model. So it is actually, and you don't want to repeat yourself and to repeat other competitions. So it is actually really hard.
Thank you. And I mean, do you think I've not been in Kaggle for a while now? I gave my tries some time ago. But do you think that the competitions are still innovative at this point? I guess with a lot of NLP coming in lately, I guess that will be a yes, but probably that's the direction now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kaggle always did a great job in filtering out like the boring ones. And but the other problem here is how computationally intensive the competition is, because with this NLP large language models, you need a lot of GPUs, TPUs, and even Kaggle platform doesn't have this scale of computational resources provided to the competitors. So so there is always a trade-off, but I mean, they do have more than 10 years of experience, and I think they do pick up nice ones, even though I mean, one of the pitfalls I didn't mention, if you don't split your data properly, the train and test, then the competition will become a lottery. So basically, I mean, even so, the most robust and simple models will probably win, but if you overfit on the like your training data and the scene part of the test data, you will probably go down very hard on the leaderboard, because like test and the train was not split in the proper manner, so there was not a good like stratification and things like that, and this happened several times, and you may see this final leaderboards where people from the like they go up like thousands of positions or go down thousands of positions, and like people don't like that. They don't want to participate in the lottery and wasting like 3 months of their work. But I think most experienced guys, they just don't participate in these competitions at all. So I mean, there are many ways how you can screw up.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, do you recommend any competitions in the near future? Yeah, there was so when we finished this Poison Network competition, the same organizers had NLP competition, like it's NLP/time series, predicting the future, like predicting the future events based on the text data available at that time. For example, answer the question, who will be the next United States president, without looking into the future. And they collected the data set, they published a paper describing this data set, and they wanted to check it with the competition. And there was a huge prize pool of maybe $500,000, but it was again sponsored by FTX. So I don't think we will participate, or maybe the prize pool will shrink. I actually not up to date in recent competitions, because it was a one-off. My teammate, he had this dream of having a paper on NIPS, and we probably delivered his dream, because like the results are not finalized yet, but we should be the first. But I mean, it is so emotionally intense, and they like when you're aiming for the first place, you do have a lot of sleepless nights and working on weekends, and it exhausts you a lot. So probably it's a good time to quit and maybe solve more work-related hard tasks. But I mean, Kaggle is usually a great choice. Like they do host like competition maybe every 2 weeks or a month, and as I mentioned, there are a lot of platforms out there. Just pick up like things you like and go for it.
Hi Pavel, I have a quick question as well. I was just wondering, like, to what extent are you allowed to use any pre-trained models or things like that on Kaggle? Especially, I guess, for NLP tasks nowadays, you have these huge sets of like pre-trained weights for language models and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was always part of the game with computer vision and NLP. especially in NLP, usually data sets for classification tasks. Even for the core competition I mentioned, it was tiny. It was maybe up to 100,000 examples, but it's definitely not enough to train from scratch. And for sure, everybody uses pre-trained networks. They use like models from Hugging Face. They combine them together. They fine-tune them on a given data set. So I mean, it's a best practice, and it is exactly what you do in your real job as well.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Any more questions? I have one, Pavel. Maybe just your also recommendation. When I always recommend Kaggle to people when they want to learn about machine learning, and I know that, I mean, maybe not recently, but a year ago or something, Kaggle launched also kind of a tutorial series on data analysis, machine learning, and so on, which is great. But I think, yeah, the most useful part is to take part in the competitions, see other notebooks, see the comments and the discussion. That would be very useful to to speed you up in kind of let's say close to real world kind of situations, that rather than doing a course in a platform. Yeah, I was wondering what I was going to ask. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I support you here. I think this is one of the greatest sources of like knowledge and the state-of-the-art models. And indeed, the course is great, but I mean, there are a lot of nice courses out there. But like notebooks, public solutions, data sets, approaches, write-ups, it's especially from the top performers, it is just so valuable. And there are even, I think, podcasts or some people doing summaries now on the top solutions, so you can like even consume the digested information and not go like through all the notebooks by yourself, and maybe pick up best ideas in some compressed form. So I mean, this is a great place to learn.
Thanks again. Any more questions? I think it's going to be the last time I ask, then we can close it. All right, there are no more questions. Thank you again, Pavel, for your time. It was a very nice talk. And hopefully we will see each other in Limassol or in another PyData meetup around. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.